Okay guys, so today I wanted to speak about my approach to Chinese traditional martial arts and martial arts in general. So I received lots of comments and especially by emails, personal questions about how did you get interested in all of this, how much time have you spent to learn what you actually know, and blah 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 blah. So I never really answered to all of these questions all at once, and so I felt that was necessary just to make clear my path through which I have actually achieved what I know from one side. From another side, I hope that my life story in martial art could have be maybe of help to someone who want to start or want to a different approach, or you want to dig deeper into what is actually researching and practicing. So let's start saying that since I was a little kid, I was interested in martial art. So it wasn't a late-on activity that, you know, a passion that came when I was 20 or 30, but I started when I was around 5, 6 years old. My father was a karate enthusiast when he was a teenager, and he practiced like traditional Shotokan karate. So I learned how to do, I think, the first kata when I was like 5 or 6, and when I was like 8, he signed me to a karate school. Which was a Vadu-ryu karate school. There were not many Shotokan traditional karate schools when I grew up, like early 80s. And so I did Vadu-ryu. I was pretty okay. I was pretty big for being a kid of that age compared to the other kids. So I usually won competitions and stuff like this. But I knew it that my interest was something else. I like yin-yang, I like Taoism, I like Kung Fu movies, not necessarily Bruce Lee. I always felt that Bruce Lee was nothing about Kung Fu, because since I really started Shaolin Temple with Jet Li, I already had a VHS, and I knew that actual Kung Fu was very different from what Bruce Lee was doing. And I love Bruce Lee movies, but as an action movie, but I never really liked Bruce Lee as a Kung Fu guy, because I don't think he was a Kung Fu guy, and then later on I discovered that actually he wasn't at all. So I wasn't really intrigued by become a Bruce Lee, which is actually, it's a thing that attracts many people in Kung Fu in general. No, I was interested in very traditional as possible, Chinese Kung Fu. So low positions, forms, weapons, and blah blah blah. When I was like 10, 11, 12, that was my main focus, was my main passion. So when I was, around that age, I found a Kung Fu school, a traditional Kung Fu school in my city, in Rome, Italy, that has like 4 different styles. One was Taijiquan, and then was Hung Gar, Wing Chun, and Talang, all traditional. Every day one, and we were following like different masters that were like visiting Italy once a year. So it was a pretty good association, a pretty good teaching, except the fact that these styles were not actually being studied by our teachers so in deep. So when we started to ask like the serious questions, like for example, how do you fight doing this style? Or when you do a sound, or when you do some breathing, what actually you are hoping to achieve. So very specific question that we already have when we were like 17, 18. I speak about me and a bunch of others that were like a more, enthusiast group of this association. They were going every day, we were training by ourselves, and then at the gym in the same day, so we were kind of crazy about it. And because we were taking it so seriously, we had very serious questions. And so after that, I just resigned, let's say I quit from this association looking for answers. And I did many other things, sport combats, boxing, I did Olympic fencing. I really like armored combat kind of sports, so I did Kali, Dog Brothers kind of trainings, stuff like that. I really wanted to fight. I wanted to, you know, hand to hand, kind of more a training of impact on the others, okay? Something that we can do together, because I didn't do it before. There were lots of forms, lots of exercises, trainings of various kinds, but never really fighting. So I wanted to fight. I wanted to see how actually you can do a real martial art. And so I was doing all of that with all of the background of many years of Kung Fu. And then, on suggestion of a friend of mine, it came a master that did some internal Kung Fu styles, an Italian master, very smart, a great athlete, great mindset for combat and sport combats and traditional martial arts. And then he invited me to one of his classes and he showed me like few things. Very basic internal martial art concepts, and I was totally unable to do any of that. And then he say, okay, now punch me. And then I punched him, and it was like punching a solid wall. So he say like, listen, you don't know how to punch. That punch is not a punch. That punch is terrible. Now try to kick, maybe it's better. So I tried to kick him, it was even worse. And then he say, okay, you cannot punch, you cannot kick. It's been like more than 10 years or more that you are doing martial arts and combats and stuff. So I think this all of this is pretty. You are on the wrong path. This is not the real martial art that will make you stronger. Not able to do some fancy stances and positions, but actually have to first of all make you actually stronger in what you're doing. I say that is great. I never knew a teacher that can teach me this, because I think that is exactly what I was always looking for. I wasn't a kid that was particularly coordinated. I wasn't a kid that was particularly good with cardio. I felt like after just like a kilometer or two, I always felt that I was like dying. I never had this kind of athletic, let's say, skills, body qualities, call it as you want it, like natural physical attributes that pretty much anyone in sport, no, who more or less has. I didn't have any. I was terrible in like any physical things. So everything that I was doing, I did it successfully because I was training really hard. So I became a little bit more coordinated than zero, but still I wasn't strong. And this guy at this point was telling me that wasn't enough. And I knew it, that wasn't enough. I wasn't actually stronger. If I punch someone in the face, that punch will be exactly the same punch before and after my learning of martial art. It's the same power. It will be as dangerous as anyone else's punch. Okay? I was completely conscious of that. I just have no idea how to overcome the problem. And so this master said to me like, okay, you need to study a thing called internal martial art. And I say, I did that already for many years. It's called Taijiquan. He said, yeah, Taijiquan is very good, but it's also very complex. And he was right. You need to do static positions first. Maybe you have to, reset yourself doing a little bit of each one. So he started to give me a kind of path through which I would have become something. I mean, if I had to do it all, he just suggested the road. Then as a real teacher, I have to show you the door, open it for you, but then the one who actually have to walk through, that is just you. So I decided at that point to leave everything that I was doing and move to Beijing. Because a very erroneous and wrong misconception, let's say the biggest misconception in traditional Kung Fu, is that we think that we can find all the answers to any kind of question, even the most difficult ones, in our neighbor gym, okay? In the gym or association that we have in our district or in our city or in our state. That, of course, it's impossible. Even if you live in a big city like New York, DC, Boston, doesn't matter. You will find many gyms, sometimes there is even a Chinese teacher, but for sure, 100%, that guy, you won't have the whole picture of what he was doing. Unless you are particularly lucky. In that case, if you like what he was doing, what you are doing for a long time with this master that you like, the goals and the qualities, you achieved 100% of what you want. You don't have any kind of questions. You are super happy with what you are doing in the way that this guy is teaching you for a long time. In that case, okay, you don't need to do anything. But if, like me, you had good teachers, but you have questions that they cannot answer to, you need to find someone who can. And for do that, you have to move to China. It's like you want to do, I don't know, be a pizza maker, you have to live in Italy. Okay, you can pretend to be the best pizza maker in New York, living in Oslo or something. Okay, you will have a kind of pizza, not the pizza. That's the thing. You want to have the whole picture about what it is like to be something. If you don't live in the place where that thing is born and developed and spend many years in researching, blah, 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 blah. So you have to give yourself. That's why it's kind of laughable when there are people on the internet that pretend, and they really pretend, to have all the answers, just being like sitting down in front of the computer, typing on YouTube, oh, young Taijiquan, original, young style, blah, blah, blah. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. You want everything served to you for free just by watching a free video on YouTube. That's completely crazy. You actually need to move your ass, go to mainland China, spend many years there, learn the language, go to university, meet Chinese people, speak with Chinese people that will eventually become your friends. Then from there, you have the basics just to access to the world that may or may not bring you to the real deal. I say may or may not because I saw many people when I was living in China that have done all of this. They speak the language, they have some money, they have a good job, or they don't even need a job because they have money, and they meet some Chinese people, but they are asking the wrong questions, they don't put their effort in the right spot, and they are going somewhere else. They will never arrive to the real deal. Now, I'm not saying that I know which one is the real deal, but clearly they are studying something that they could have studied in their own countries with the same quality. So the fact that they moved to China, it doesn't have improved the quality of what they were doing, what they know. Therefore, I think that's the wrong path. If it's something that you could have studied in your neighborhood under whatever teacher, because it's exactly the same thing, that means you are on the wrong road. Okay? The fact that you do not recognize that because you feel, oh my God, now I'm in China, I can speak Mandarin, I'm very cool. That's you auto-brainwash your mind, and you think that whatever you are doing, even the most basic stuff, you will feel empowered and entitled because you are in China, you are living in Shanghai, so you are cool, you're doing something really nice, so I'm better than the others. No, you are better than the others if you're doing something that is better than anyone else. If you're doing actually the same thing, but from China, you're doing the same thing. So I'm not saying that living in China, it makes you special. Absolutely not. Actually, to be honest, I know a lot of Laowais, this is the name of the foreigners in China, long-time foreigners that live there, that actually are not better than people in Europe or in the US who are practicing really, really hard and with a lot of effort and so on. So I'm not saying that, but it's imperative that if you have some questions that you need an answer to, that no one in the West can answer you with something that you feel like satisfied with, you need to move to China. And I moved to China. I lived in China first 10 years, then I did another 10 years in Thailand, moving back to Shanghai at a certain point and then coming back to Bangkok. But anyway, I spent 19 years pretty much living in Asia, researching, practicing, translating manuals, meeting the people of specific traditions that I was interested to, become friend with these people, because it's not enough to go to a master, shake his hand, give him $100, taking a tea and making a video with like an interview, where of course he will answer you with the most basic and meaningless answer they can possibly think of. Is normal, because he doesn't even know you, and you're asking, oh, how was Kung Fu for you when you were a kid? He say, oh, I started when I was at 5 in the morning, and of course, and then it doesn't change anything. You have met the person, but you are not friend with the person. The person is not teaching you anything, and even if you do like a trial class, or like was, you know, kind of a situation where there is the Italian master or the American master or whatever, British master that come to China and is introduced as a master of Kung Fu. So at that point, the Chinese master of Kung Fu, which actually is the real master, he sees you, and if you are introducing them that way, he will not teach you anything. Zero, absolutely nothing. He will shake your hand if you pay. He will take a tea with you, he will tell you a few stories from his childhood, and then shake back your hand and send you back to the hotel. Which is exactly what the 99% of the teachers that go to China, they do. They do not show, and I was on the side, you know, I know all of this because I was on the side of the students. I was in the middle of the Chinese students, dressed as a Chinese student, speaking Mandarin and trying to hide myself inside, you know, the crowd of the others. And then I saw all of these people that I don't want to name it, but all the people are now famous on the internet, coming one after another over the years, shaking hands, paying, doing the pictures. That's it. And then I saw the post on Facebook after 1 or 2 months saying, I met the master, blah, 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 blah. We had an amazing day together when he showed me the real blah, blah, blah. So that would happen. This is what happens when people say, oh, I used to go to China, I spend 1 week every year to go to China, or I lived in China for 6 months and stuff like that. Yeah, it really depends. Who are you? What are you doing? What have you done in those 6 months? 6 months are not enough. 1 week per year is not enough. You need to speak the language. You need to read the language. Now, you don't need to be Confucius, but you need to be able to translate traditional Chinese, simplified and traditional. Otherwise, you cannot read the manuals, you cannot read the books, and you don't, it's like someone who goes to a foreign university, it doesn't speak the language, it doesn't read the language. Of course, you will capture something here and there in English, you know, but you are not actually able to understand what the hell are you doing. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing here. It's like going to a foreign university of something that happened only in China. Saying this, don't expect that Kung Fu is as popular as you may think in China. What is popular in China are other things. Then sports, like for example badminton, ping pong, and now soccer, for example, is very popular. Coming from the West, Europe, they're very passionate now about soccer. They want to improve and become really good. And many other sports. Kung Fu is something that is seen like something of the past and is absolutely not popular. What could be a little bit more popular than zero is Wushu, which is modern Kung Fu. Wushu is not only the one that you see in the movies or at the Olympics kind of games where the people jump here and there. It's not only that, it's also what we in Europe call traditional Kung Fu. Also that one is made 60, 70 years ago by the union of many traditional masters by the Chinese government, that they have made what we know today as Taijiquan, Yang Taijiquan, Pagua, these are all made 70, 80 years ago. All the forms that you see. Okay, so don't believe that what you think is traditional, what they taught you as traditional, happened 1,000 years ago in China. And there are some monks up to a mountain or something that were practicing exactly the same form that the neighbor guy taught you. No, that's very wrong assumption. Okay, these are all very modern things. Because there was an interest from the Chinese government to make national proudness, national identity, and Kung Fu was seen as something uniquely Chinese. So they put money, they put effort, they put resources, and they hire, sometimes forcing, sometimes just paying people to create formats. So what we see as Talang Chuan, Meihua Chuan are all very modern. So all of that is pretty much the same thing that you can learn easy in Europe or in America. You don't need to go to China to find a master that teach you Bagua in that way. No. So why you have to go to China? Because it's just a part of the pie. What you want to know, so if you want to know what is Qi, how you fight with this style, how is the original trainings, how is the whole curriculum of the Taijiquan, Xingyiquan, whatever, what are the Jibegun specific for this or that quality, then of course these kind of masters cannot answer you that. They know exactly what your master in the West knows, which means few exercises, basics, warm-up exercises, 1 or 2 or 3 forms, then some duo exercises, maybe an extra 1 or 2 forms with the weapons. This is the whole curriculum that usually is part of what happened 70, 80 years ago in China. Actually, before that, things were very different. Thing is that they were very secretive. There was never something very popular. The Chinese government, when they made that kind of formats, they made it very popular. Everybody in China was forced to do that in the early morning. There are some schedules, daily schedules of some young Taijiquan masters that I experienced, that were my friends. They were telling me they are incredible. They had to wake up every day at 5 or 6 in the morning, and they have one class of like 200 or 300 people every 20 minutes until night, and then the next day come back. So you can imagine how many people in China have done the 24 young Taiji form. Millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people. So the Chinese government, in making that effort, make it very, very popular. But remember that what is popular is actually not the real deal. It's something simplified, made it in a way that everybody can do it, removing all the combat, more oriented kind of exercises and angles of the practice. So smoothing the thing, watering down, smooth it, and make it in a way that everybody can do it. That's more popular. It's whatever you find in any park, in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Chengdu, wherever you want to go. Passing that, because of course at that point I already did it for many, many years in Italy. So when I arrived to China, I was already able to do many, many forms of 4 different styles, plus basic Yichuan. So I was way better than the average Chinese at the park, way better. But what happened? I met some people, because I dig deeper, I met some people who say, oh, you're good, but I don't think you are good like a guy that I know in my village who will take you down in 3 seconds. And I say, you have a guy like that? Good, show me immediately what he's doing. Mei Huachuan, Talang, whatever, Xingyin, very good, let me see it. And the guy put me down in 3 seconds. And then I say, oh wow, this guy is actually very, very strong. He used martial art. He's not like strong just to be strong. He's actually using something that I don't know. What is this? What is that? they were very brutal. Chinese are not very, are very practical people, are very pragmatic people. They will show you immediately that they are superior. They are not, you know, making the thing easier for you. It's not a process like in Karate Kid. It's good master, bad master. No, it's actually all pretty much like the bad master that beats you down every single day until you actually understand what you have to do by yourself and you react. It's very practical, very direct approach, very different from what the people actually like. It's not very commercial. And will not work as a commercial way of doing in the West. I can't do that with my students, for example, and I know that, but it's the way that I learn from. And so I will never forget that I have many teachers that were good practitioners, good masters with good kung fu qualities, and they were all very, very practical. So the majority of the people, they will never go to this kind of people, to look for this kind of people, because this kind of people are very rude, in a way we can say that, very practical, very down to earth, like very basic kind of people. No one understands what they are saying, because they very often, like, they're speaking strange dialects. They come from small villages, small towns, somewhere in central China, so they have their own way of communicate. On top of all of that, are often very old. So, you know, like in any language, when you get very old, you start not to be, you know, easy to understand. So, top that with like Chinese, and then dialect, and 82 years old, and, you know, I didn't maybe have an help to translate, so I have to do by myself. So, it actually required lots of effort from you, all of this. But in doing that, I explore, I went to these towns, I went to this village. The people that I know, they took me to these places. Are not places that you just can go, knock, and there is like a gym where you pay a ticket and then they play with you and they teach you the secrets of Kung Fu. That doesn't exist in China. Doesn't exist if you want something very traditional and very specific. Now, I found a master or a line or a tradition or a family that taught me everything that I know in one time? No, of course. When I decided to do only young Taijiquan around like 15 years ago, even if I started before, but I focused my research on traditional archery and young Taijiquan around 15 years ago, I went to everyone. The bad ones, the good ones, the rude, the simple, the nice, the ugly. I went everywhere because everyone have a little slice of the whole cake. Now, how do I know that that one is a good slice and the other one is a bad slice? There is a sense. Reading the classics, translating, understanding more Chinese, speaking with the people who dedicate their life to young Taijiquan for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, that helps to have an understanding of what the actual martial art is. So I'm not pretending to know Chinese martial art. At that point, I focus on Taijiquan. So when I focus on the Taijiquan and I look somewhere else, I look Bagua, I look here, I look there, everything was very different, because when you get into it, you will see the thing as they are, more and more, deeply and deeply, and you will feel different, and you will see different things, and you see that the other styles have trained under different rules, have trained after different methods, they have different qualities, they move in a different way. But before, if you didn't focus that much, and if you didn't have that kind of attitude to focusing and going deeper into one thing, for you will be pretty much all the same. Bagua go round, but this one is also Xingyi, but this one is also in Taiji, and blah, 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 blah. You see, when you are on the surface, everything will be pretty much the same. But when you go in deep, everything will be very different. And there will be no help for you to study more than one thing. because there is already so much to study what you are doing, and it's so specific that you won't need anything else. So I hope that this video have helped you a little bit. For sure have, I don't know, produce a lot of questions, and there's a lot of other things that I want to say, but I cannot be hours and hours. So if you have any questions, just write it in the comments, and thank you very much for watching.